Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How's everyone doing? I hope you had a good long weekend. Hope you enjoyed your time. Hopefully, you got outside a little bit. It's going to be ugly today. Actually, for the most of the this week, it's going to be kind of ugly. So hopefully, you got some time outside. I went with my family. On Sunday, we went to the Japanese garden in Urbana and got some pictures, and it was really cool. And it was just good to be outside and doing stuff. So hopefully, you again had a wonderful weekend. We're going to start with 913 today. Now, again, you hopefully watched the video and enjoyed that one. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But we're going to get started. 913. Okay, so you should have done 912 day two check and reflect already. Hopefully that went well. Please make sure that you're asking me if you have any questions. Okay. I also want to introduce. I'm trying out a new stylus. It's kind of a weird tip on the end. I don't know how it's going to work. We're going to see how it's going to go, and hopefully it goes well and it helps me write a little bit clearer. Okay. You will need a paper and a pencil, and hopefully a red pen as well, and a calculator to do the work today. Okay. All right. So let's begin. Here we go. Um, 913. Today, what if the equation is not in standard form? And again, you should feel very comfortable with standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. More solving quadratic equations. Today, we'll apply and extend what you know about solving quadratic equations. All right, so let's practice first. So for the quadratic equation, 6x squared plus 11x minus 10 equals 0, please solve it using the zero product property. So if you would pause the video now and go ahead and solve it. When you are done solving it, please go ahead and turn the video back on, and we're going to compare the work. Okay, go. Okay, hopefully you paused it. I'm going to try out my pen. Let's see how it works. Okay, so I've got to write kind of big, so hang with me here. All right, so I first make my generic rectangle here, and I know 6x squared goes here. That's a beautiful square there. And negative 10 here. And then I make my diamond problem, and this would be 60x squared, actually negative 60x squared, right? Negative 60x squared. And then down here would be the 11x. Now, again, I'm looking for factors of 60 that add up. Now, the problem is this is a negative here, so they're not going to add. They're actually going to subtract, right? So what two numbers multiply to get me 60 that subtract to get me 11? And that would be 15 and 4. So since this is positive, it has to be 15x and 4x. And now I go ahead and write these down. I'm going to put the 4x down here and the 15x here. Now I factor things out. Oh, and this one has to be negative. Almost missed that there. Sorry about that. Now I factor out. Now from here, this would be a 3x, and over here, this would be a negative 2, it seems like. And then over here, I'd have 2x, and this would be 5. Okay. And that should be my factors. So now I've got 3x minus 2 times 2x plus 5 equals 0. Okay. At this point, then I split it up. So let me split it here. 3x minus 2, 2 equals 0. And 2x plus 5 equals 0. And then I solve. Supposed to be plus 2 and plus 2, so 3x equals 2. And then over here, that's a minus 5 and minus 5, so 2x equals negative 5. And then over here, I divide by 2, so x equals negative 2.5. And over here, divide by 3 and divide by 3, and I get x equals 2/3. Again, I've got a fraction and decimal. It's okay. It's not ideal, but hopefully you get those and you got those answers. Okay, is that what you got? Hopefully. All right. Now I want you to solve it using the quadratic formula. So if you would go again, please, and write the problem down. Again, it was 6x squared, 6x squared plus 11x minus 10 equals 0. And please go ahead and solve that. And then when you're done, unpause it and we'll compare. Okay, so you should have done it. Please tell me you did it. Did you actually do it? Okay. First thing you should have done, A, B, and C. I hope you wrote these down. A is 6. B is, B is 11. Careful there. And C is negative 10. Okay. So A is 6, B is 11, and C is negative 10. Okay, so now I go x equals negative b, negative 11, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 11 squared minus 4 times 1 times c. 4 times, sorry, 6 times c, which is negative 10, all over 2 times a, which is 6. Okay, so now I go ahead and solve that. So x equals negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 11 squared is 121 minus 4 times 6 is 24 times 200 and times 10 would be negative 240. Okay, all over 12. So now I go to the next section here. So I'm going to try, okay, good. X equals negative 11 plus or minus the square root of. This becomes plus positive. So we do 121 plus 241 and you get 361. 361. Okay, now all over 12. Now, of course, that's the exact radical. We want the approximate decimal. So let's try it out, go farther. So negative 11 plus the square root of 361. Isn't it wonderful that the square root of 361 in this case is 19? So I just go here, x equals negative 11 plus or minus 19 divided by 12, and I split it two ways. So x equals negative 11 plus 19 divided by 12, and x equals negative 11 minus 19 divided by 12. Now, negative 11 plus 19 would be 8, 8 over 12, or 2/3. Okay, good. Then over here, this should be negative 30 divided by 12, or negative, well, dividing both of those, 3 goes into both of them. Anything else? Okay, 6. So negative 5 over 2, or negative 2.5. Okay? And if you remember, that was the exact same answers I got in my previous problem. So it's really important to understand that no matter how you solve it, you should always get the same answer, and that should be no matter what you do, you should always get the same answer. So if you have time, you can always verify your answer. Okay. Now, what happens if it's not an ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 form? As long, of course, as if a does not equal 0. So if it's not in standard form, what if key terms are missing? Consider these questions as you solve the quadratic equation below. Please look at that problem right there. What are we missing? We, of course, are missing b. Now, you might already recognize this as something kind of unique here as a, well, I'm not going to say it, but you might recognize it. But let's go ahead and try the quadratic equation. So if I know a equals what? 4. B, I don't have, so that equals 0. And C equals negative 121. I go ahead and go to my quadratic equation. X equals, oh, all right, hold on. X equals, I made a mark there that I don't like. All right, let's try this again. Negative B. I want a big screen so I can write better. Negative B, well, the opposite of B is 0. So negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared. B squared, 0 squared is 0. So I'm just going to leave it off. Minus 4 times A, which is 4, times C, which is negative 121, all over 2 times A, which is 4. Okay? And I get x equals, whew, plus or minus. Now, wait a minute. If I've got 0 plus or minus, can I do that? Well, let's try. Anyway, 0 plus or minus the square root of 4 times negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Whew, times negative 121. And that gives me 1,300 or 1,936. The square root of that is 44. Oh, nice. So 0 plus or minus 44 all over 8. Oh, so x equals 0 plus or minus. That means positive or negative 44 divided by 8. And 44, 8 goes into 44, how many times? Would be 5.5. So x equals positive or negative 5.5. Now you could do it that way. That's one possibility. That's one option. Is there anything else I could have done? Well, hopefully, remember that answer. Hopefully, remember that, or you recognize that is a what? It's a difference of squares. And so I've got square root of that would be 2x. Square root of that would be 11 times 2x plus 11 equals 0. Split these up. 2x minus 11 equals 0, and 2x plus 11 equals 0. So I get 2x equals 11, 2x equals negative 11, divide by 2, x equals 5.5, and x equals negative 5.5. So I had a couple options. Either one of them would have worked. Which one's easier? Well, in this case, hopefully you recognize the difference of squares and were able to solve it that way. All right, we got one last one. This is the last one, so I do want you to solve this one. This one's a little tricky, so please pause, try, come back, and we'll check it out. Okay? Okay. Hopefully you paused the problem. Hopefully you did it and we were checking there. Now, what method did you choose to solve this with? Did you use quadratic formula? Did you factor it out to zero product property? Well, you might run into some problems here. Now, first thing you notice is what? These are really big numbers. Okay, so with these really big numbers, you hopefully get it to standard form. 15x squared minus 165x plus 630 equals 0. At that point, what can you do? Well, you could work with that, but maybe you recognize that all of these are actually factors of 15. So I can actually factor out the 15, then I get x squared, 15 times 11, so minus 11x gives you 165. And then 630 divided by 15 is 42, so plus 42 equals 0. Now, that gives you much smaller numbers to work with if you're going to do factoring, or if you're going to do zero product property, or if you're going to use quadratic formula. Don't have to. It just helps you out maybe with some smaller numbers, okay? I am going to go ahead and, well, what do you want to try? Factoring? Well, here's the thing. If you factor it out, maybe you tried it. If you factored it out, you would get no solution, because there are no two numbers that multiply to get me 42x squared that add up to get me negative 11x. So I'm going to go with quadratic formula. So A, in this case, is 1. B, because I go with the factored form here, is negative 11. And C is 42. Now, hang with me here as we do this, okay? Here we go. X equals negative B, which is the 11. Negative 11 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 11 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 42, all over 2 times 1. Okay. The opposite of negative 11 is 11 plus or minus 11. Negative 11 squared is 121 minus 4 times 1 times 42 would be 168 all over 2. Now, at this point, we're going to stop. Do you notice something? Well, hopefully you recognize right here, 121 minus 168 is going to give you a negative number. And you cannot find the square root of a negative number. Therefore, this one truly has no solution. Okay? So, no real solutions. We'll just stop there. We can't do it. So please be aware, you got to be able to do all three methods. If they're not in standard form, get them in standard form and solve them. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. We're only taking one day for this lesson. Your homework is 927B, 28, 29, and 33. So please go ahead and do that homework today, and you can check it back tomorrow, and hopefully you did pretty well on it. Okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of the day, and we will talk to you later.